If you had sort of a Tinder for composers, what is your very sharp bio say?
Um,
Hello and welcome. I'm Meena Shamaly, and I'm here in this Fireside chat with Narayan Johnson, aka Riverboy. Is the audio director and composer on Cult of the Lamb by Massive Monster. He's also an artist known as Riverboy, a producer for other artists, and he was previously part of a duo known as Willow Beats with Kalyani Mumtaz. Hello, Narayan.
hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
It is my absolute pleasure. So, Fireside, do you feel warm? Do you feel warm right now?
I got my jacket on. I'm doing all right. It's not too bad in Melbourne at the moment.
Yeah, just feel like we should have this kind of smoking jacket, like be, I don't know, have a pipe in hand or something. Like I'm just inside the composer studio.
Yeah, some crackling fire sounds in the background.
Yes, there will definitely not be any audio post-production. All the fire you hear is going to be real. Are we inside the composer studio right now?
Yeah. So I have a small studio set up in my room, in my apartment. And this is it right here.
Beautiful. And how long have you been making music in your life?
Oh, so I started getting guitar lessons. God, let me think. Probably around the 7th or 8th grade. And actually, it was like it was group lessons. So like it was a bunch of kids playing guitar and like one teacher. And I joined it quite late, and so I felt like I really needed to catch up. And so I played heaps and practiced heaps until I was like kind of at the level that everyone else was at. And then I kind of just really took to it, and I was like, oh, I'm kind of good at this, and just kept getting private lessons. And then during uni, I was studying music at uni actually. I broke my left wrist at one point, and it just made playing like really difficult. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to defer uni. And so I swapped into composition. And that's when I started getting really interested in electronic music and producing those type of things.
Oh, fantastic. I remember teaching group guitar lessons. That was kind of, as a teacher, it's kind of like, oh my God, how am I going to even do this? But as a student trying to catch up, damn, that's a whole other thing. So the breaking of the wrists led to an interest or a taking up of electronic music, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And like through school, I always had like a cracked version of or Fruity Loops, it was called in the day. And so like me and my friends would make like just really terrible beats and try and rap over the top and that type of thing. So I always kind of had an interest in it, but that was when I was like really interested in it. And I started noticing more artists. Like before, I had kind of thought of electronic music as like, you know, dance beats and dance music and trance and things like that. And I started noticing artists like Mount Kimby and The Knife, and just these artists that made electronic music, but it was also super artful and really interesting to me.
Which kind of can tie in directly into how music for games can be, or it can be this kind of art form that relies on electronics but brings in all these different kind of influences. And I think the thing I love about video game music is that as much as someone can try to define it, you really can't pin it down. It can be such a multitude of things.
For sure. Yeah, I guess it's like, I mean, video game music is music, I guess, and it can be anything that you want it to be, really.
Beautiful. So you started off playing guitar. Do you play a lot of live instruments in your work?
So I do. I do play some guitar, and I play bansuri a little bit, like classical flute.
Nice.
Indian classical flute. Yeah, and so I play like a parts of bansuri, and I play guitar occasionally, but it's definitely more on the side of like in the box, like making beats and using like instrument packs and stuff like that. Not packs, sorry, what's the word? Sound
Virtual
libraries.
Instruments? Sample libraries.
Yeah, sound libraries, yeah.
Yeah. And there's a beautiful creativity with the way you kind of engage in electronics and the way you process vocals specifically. I noticed about your music. When did you kind of how did you get into processing vocals and acoustic sources?
So like I was saying, some of my very early electronic music influences were Mount Kimby, and they were kind of in that what people called post dubstep, and that they were cutting a lot of vocals like really early on before it was this major sound that it is today. They were chopping vocals up, and the Knife do a lot of vocal manipulation, so they'll pitch their voice down and mess with the format and that type of thing. And those were like some of my really early influences. So even in like the earliest tracks that I was making, the vocals were all cut up, and I was like glitching and chopping things.
That's really cool. And does that play into your music for Cult of the Lamb?
Yeah, 100%. So it's an interesting palette because Cult of the Lamb is really cute and these, cute cuddly animals, but then it's also, you're running a cult and it's quite dark in some aspects, in a lot of aspects actually. So I'm trying to find this fine line, and I've been capturing this cult aesthetic through using a lot of different vocals. So all kinds of different vocal parts, and I'm chopping them up and I'm pitching them down. There's this one boss in the game that's like this animal gets turned into this, like mutated into this tentacle boss thing, and it's like it's all crazy and mutated. And the music, I'm using these vocal lines, but I'm like shifting the format, which is like digital throat length, and I'm like automating that as the vocal lines play, and it's kind of gets this really freaky sound. It kind of almost sounds like it's coming from the boss.
I'll get into Cult of the Lamb a little down the line. I'll get into a little more with you. But we've got Narayan, the musician, the producer, coming up as When did the whole Riverboy thing start?
So it was a little while. I was in a group called Willow Beats, and we had decided that we wanted to try some different things musically. And that was just like the first alias. I just thought of the name one day and was like, oh, that's a cool name. And then I just made some socials and stuff with that name. I wasn't really thinking of maybe carrying it along. It was very like, oh, this is a cool name. Yeah. Maybe I'll use it. And then it just kind of, it's one of those things like you just gradually kind of go, oh yeah, that'll work.
Is there an actual river?
Yeah, well, I grew up in the northern rivers. So I grew up all around these like beautiful rivers and spent most of my childhood kind of hanging out with friends and swimming and that type of thing. And so the rivers for me hold like a really, really beautiful place. And it's kind of like a reminder to myself to, keep that young excitement and enthusiasm and that like willingness to experiment and to look into things in different ways and be playful with things.
Yeah. And you experimented a lot through the work with Willow Beats as well, because that was a long-running collaboration with Kalyani Mumtaz. And you guys did some really fantastic stuff with a lot of variety together. In terms of, did you want to maybe tell us a little about that, well, almost decade of your life, I guess?
Yeah, so it started when I was in uni, broke my wrist, got into composition, and I just got like a cheap mic and just got like a sound card, and I had Logic at the time, and I was just like messing around making beats, and Kalyani was just in the house because we were living at the same house at the time, and I was just like, oh, do you want to record some vocals on this? Because she'd always been like a really amazing singer, and yeah, she just started recording vocals, and that was our first song. And from there, we just kind of, kept doing it. People seemed to like it, and we had a lot of fun. And yeah, that kind of turned into, a thing where we were getting radio play and we were touring and playing festivals. And, we did some cool big support slots. Like we supported Flume. We
Nice.
supported Tash Sultana and Alice in Wonderland. And yeah, that was awesome.
So you're doing that, basically taking the music industry on, and I suppose hustling in the music industry, and are video games at the back of your mind in any way at that point?
Composing on video games, not really. I've always played video games. Like I've always, just loved playing video games, and that always been an influence on me. Like in particular, the Donkey Kong Country soundtrack. Nice. I feel like I just love that kind of ambient sound, and it's beautiful but a little dark. I've always just kind of drawn on that, and so no, I hadn't thought that being a composer was like even in the ballpark of things that I could do until a little later.
When did that happen?
So Julian, he is one of the members of Massive Monster, and he had come to a Willow Beats show. He was into our music, and I was just randomly on Twitter one day. I didn't use Twitter basically at all at the time, and I just happened to be on the Willow Beats Twitter, and someone had followed me or us with a kind of gamey looking profile picture. And I was like, oh, who is this? And I just, it was just like, oh, this is cool. They literally just followed me. I went to their page and was checking it all out. And I was like, oh, I could see that he made games. And so I just messaged him and was like, oh, hey, like, that's really cool. You make games. And he was like, oh, I love your music. Like, would love to do something one day. And then we worked on a phone app, like a really simple game.
Yeah.
And that was really fun. But then like years down the track, like a couple of years down the track, him and his team were working on a bigger game, and he hit me up. He's like, we'd love to have you make music on it. And that's brings me to where I am today. That's
amazing. So between Willow Beats and then working on Cult of the Lamb, you were doing the whole Riverboy thing as an artist, as a producer. And I especially love what I'd heard from you producing for Dreaming Now. Because I remember hearing Dreaming Now and going, oh, this stuff sounds really amazing and fresh and unique. And then, of course, there your name was. Can you tell me a bit about your life as Riverboy, as the artist?
Yeah, so Riverboy, it started, I had this idea that I could sell beats online because I was just looking for some way that I could pay the bills. And so I was like, all right, I can upload beats to this site and people can lease them and people can buy them. So that was kind of my first plan. But then I released a few tracks, I think, and some collabs started coming my way. So yeah, I did those tracks with Dreaming Now. I've done some tracks with Alara. So those things started coming my way, and I started releasing more music and thinking of Riverboy more as an actual artist project, as opposed to someone that's just a producer. And then that was kind of slowly building. And then game came.
Where is it you standing, man? Whose land you standing on? Know the history, know the facts. This indigenous land that you are on. Indigenous land is where you stand. Indigenous land is where you be. Indigenous land, it always was. Indigenous land, always will be. Indigenous land is where you stand. Indigenous land is where you be. Indigenous land, it always was. Indigenous land, always will be. Lest we Forget the frontier wars and the genocide.
And you became an artist and a producer, even a producer for yourself. I feel from my kind of listening and experiencing of your music, I feel like you were becoming the artist you want to be, because you had the freedom to shape, your own songs with your own voice, with your own kind of sensibilities. Is that what you kind of were feeling, or am I just kind of reading too much into it?
No, totally. I think with Riverboy, it was just, it's always been like this for me, but it was just making the songs that I wanted to make at the time. And then, after releasing a few songs, you kind of realize, oh, this actually has a bit of a sound. That's a bit of this, like the characteristics of this project. But definitely very much. I'm doing every part of the process, so I can kind of do it however I want, which is cool.
Eventually we all go home. Said that I'll be around, know that I'll be around. Catch me acting up when you know I'm feeling down. Give me my soul, give me my spirit and bone. Eventually we all go home. Said that I'll be around, know that I'll be around. Catch me acting up when you know I'm feeling down. Give me my soul, give me my spirit and bone. Eventually we all go home. When do we decide? When do we decide?
And I remember you were speaking once about the differences between how you were producing before and how you're producing kind of later, where you're trying to get these simpler parts to just sound really good on their own, rather than multiple layers of complexity. So it's sort of like two versions of producing a Timbaland beat, if you'll allow that comparison. Because sometimes Timbaland is just doing 3 elements. Sometimes he's doing like 17 different elements that are just so intricately And I think I hear a lot of that intricacy in your work, whether it's that simple version or the complex layers. What's that part of your process?
Yeah, for sure. So with Willow Beats, like especially during the album that we made, it was I was going through this phase, I guess, but I was just like, I'll add so much stuff. I'll add like as much stuff as I can. And the more layers, the better. And the more and then like looking back on the project files now, there's like hundreds of tracks sometimes. There's over 100 tracks in it, like in a single song. And one of them might just be like this synth layer that you can barely hear that kind of fades in with some of the synths and things. And I'm like, okay, I think that actually I might be better off focusing on a few layers, but making sure those are all working as best as they can, and all kind of intricately working with each other in the best way. And that's definitely where I've been with Riverboy. Like I still do, probably an average number of tracks.
Yeah.
But a lot less than I was at that time.
You're probably executing them with a lot more, I don't know, just expertise.
I think so.
Just by virtue of time and experience.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny, one of those things, like sometimes you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm getting better. but then you like listen to one of your current songs, and then you listen to something that you made a few years ago, and you're like, okay, I can definitely see the development here. And I think I'm going in the right direction. I hope.
Yeah, no, look, I think you've been going in a great direction. And I think anyone who hears your music will hear that too. Especially anyone who hears your music in Cult of the Lamb, which you have been cooking for the last couple of years, kind of in a secret lab, underground layer sort of thing with Massive Monster. How has writing music for Cult of the Lamb been a development of your work as an artist? Has it kind of completely changed it? Or have you kind of gone, oh, this is how I take those things I naturally do and progress them in a different way?
So it's a bit of both. I'm quite lucky. Like the Massive Monster team already like the music that I'm making, as an artist. And so a lot of the times, they'll give me some reference tracks, and they'll kind of say this song needs to sound like this. But they're also kind of like, look, we just do you. And so it's honestly like, just do you, but then make it sound like, a cult leader is about to kill you, or something like that. And which is it's been amazing for me, because I can really like do my sound and what is inspiring to me. I'm trying all kinds of new experiments and things on these tracks. But at the same time, like it is a different mindset. Like when you're making a pop song or a song, you kind of, there's all these things in the back of your mind. Like you're kind of like, okay, is this got a catchy hook? Is this interesting the listener within the first 10 seconds? Is this going to sound good through a big sound system? There's all these like other things that kind of play in the back of your mind, and I guess rules to some extent.
Yeah.
Whereas with game music, for me, I found it's more just, is this music sitting right in this space? Is this enhancing the gameplay? Is this giving the character like the feeling that this space should feel like?
So, Cult of the Lamb, if you would you describe it more as a narrative game or more of an experience, kind of that you're cultivating through, through your gameplay?
I think it's more of a narrative game. I mean, it's definitely got both elements, but there is like a strong narrative that goes through the game.
What's that narrative? So there's you kind of become a cult leader, and there's you're kind of gaining a following and molding people's beliefs. Sorry, like Lamb's belief. Obviously, like this is not glorifying the idea of a cult. It's more like having creative fun with it.
Yeah, for sure. So you're just a regular lamb, and you're about to get executed, but you're kind of endowed. You're given this incredible power, which gives you the ability to lead a cult. And so then you're kind of like, you're trying to grow your cult. You're basically trying to grow your cult. And so you're going out in the wilderness and you're fighting monsters and also like saving animals that can become part of your cult and bringing people in. And then you have to look after them. You know, you have to make sure they've got beds, make sure they're fed, make sure that you're keeping them happy. And the different cult members have different wants and needs, and sometimes those might clash with each other. So it's kind of this like fine line. So it's like base builder, and then also it's like a dungeon crawler. It's kind of two games in one.
And does it kind of take on the quality of moral ambiguity, or are you kind of a hero in your own story or a villain in this story? Or is that all part of the experience, kind of discovering what those boundaries are? Yeah,
it's definitely that. Like you can decide how you want to run it. You can decide if you're going to, you can decide if you want to murder a dissenter, or you can, try and bring them in another way. It's very much up to you how you want to run it.
How does your music then play to that narrative structure or that experiential structure?
Yeah, so at the moment, there's kind of like in the dungeon crawling sections, the music is kind of it's more like hyper, it's more energetic, it's more exciting. And then there's boss fights, which are the kind of the biggest pieces of music, and the most energetic. And then in the base, it's kind of it's warmer. It's like a safe place. It's meant to be comforting, and you're building this cult. But there is some elements that I haven't fully discovered how I will be approaching musically yet. So, when there is a dissenter or when things aren't going right, I need to figure out how the music is going to portray that as well.
How interactive does the music need to be in a dungeon crawler like this, and B, specifically with Cult of the Lamb?
Yeah, so at the moment, I'm still trying to get all the basic music in there. So I'm just trying to make sure there's something in there that's working for every part of the game. And then I think there's going to be some messing around with adding and taking away elements. And yeah, like I said, when things aren't going right in bass, I want to figure out a way that I can really portray that through the music. So whether that's, certain elements and certain instruments getting distorted, or maybe changing into a minor key. Lots of experimenting to do.
So you've been able to take your own musical sensibilities into the soundtrack and also explore some new things and new elements. What have been kind of the instruments or combinations of instruments or, musical concepts that you found really exciting to explore in Cult of the Lamb?
Yeah, so there is this kind of juxtaposition of, cute animals and then also, a cult. So it is this kind of melding of dark and light. And yeah, the way that I've kind of been doing that is through, I'm using a lot of kind of what I would consider cute and shorter instruments, like marimbas and glockenspiels and things like that. But then, I'm using kind of juxtaposing that with, really big bass lines and big drums. And yeah, a lot of vocal parts, a lot of vocal manipulation. So a lot of chopping, a lot of just interesting techniques that I hadn't actually tried before. Yeah.
And these vocal chops, you said, would resemble spells or chants or things that are kind of appropriate to the context of a cult or the occult as well.
Yeah. I mean, in my mind, there kind of are these spells going off or prayers or different, just different kind of culty stuff happening in the background and above you. And yeah, for me, that symbolizes that. But we'll see. They sound good is the main thing.
Absolutely. They do sound good. Is it your music in the trailer, in the release trailer?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's that already provides a really great taste of that kind of mix you're going for. The electronic element, the cute marimba, short percussive elements, and those really freaky, awesome vocals. That's really cool. What would you say is one of the most important lessons you learned from working on Cult of the Lamb, and maybe also from the transition between pop or whatever you call your music, because it's this genre-bending thing, into video game music?
Yeah, for sure. So one thing that I've really stuck by and I think is really important, especially coming from a different place into games music, is just to stay super humble. And when you submit a track and there's things that aren't working or people are giving feedback on certain things, even if you disagree with that, like there's a reason that there's something that's not working, like something's not right about it. And so I think as a composer, it's your job to figure out what that is, what the root of that is, and fix it. And just stay humble. Yeah, I don't mind like redoing a track a bunch of times until I get it exactly right. And it's funny. A lot of the times the feedback will be like, okay, this is great. It just needs to be more energetic. And so throughout the process, I've figured out a bunch of ways to make something more energetic. Because my initial would be like, okay, I just need to add more percussion. But there's also a fine line there because you don't want it to be like annoying to the listener. You don't want it to be like super packed full of so much stuff going on for a long period of time. Yeah. So you've got to figure out some different ways to add energy.
And that's pretty cool because it's not even a matter of this is good, this is bad. It's really a matter of aligning all these visions into one thing. And given that you actually have a lot of creative freedom, do you feel like that kind of feedback adds to your creativity and freedom, or does it inhibit it in any way?
No, it absolutely adds to it. Like even when I really like a track and then there's certain things that I'm getting feedback on and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can make this any better, or but then when I take it away and look at it and re-edit it or change things around, I always feel like it comes out stronger. So yeah, I actually really appreciate it. Every time that I've gotten feedback on something, which isn't even, it's not even that often. It's not like everything I'm submitting is like, but there's feedback here and there, and every time it's helping the song become better. So I love it.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, one of the important things coming into a marriage of creative and technical fields, which is video games and music, is even video games in and of itself is such a marriage of art and technical creativity. It's all creative, but that means there's a whole bunch of opinions and things that that appeal to you more and things that appeal to someone else more in very different ways. So what are the instruments in Narayan's room?
So I have a few guitars. Guitars are definitely the main thing. And then I have quite a few Bansuri flutes. So you need one for every key. So I don't actually
like harmonicas.
Yeah, essentially. So I don't have one for every key yet, but I've got quite a few.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, there's even some more in there. And then apart from that, like not much. I have a microphone, obviously, and I do a lot of stuff in the box. Like it's a lot of sound libraries, a lot of sound libraries. But then I feel like I kind of work outside the box, in the box, which I'm kind of I'm printing a lot of stuff to audio, and then I'm like reversing certain notes, and so it's kind of like an experimenting inside of Ableton. Yeah. But then I've got bits of percussion. I've got shakers and all that type of thing. And I also kind of sometimes I'll just record some keys jingling around or smashing a plate or something like that.
That's beautiful. And I think this also speaks to the fact that to write music for video games effectively and actually, be doing the thing, you don't necessarily need a massive setup and this big rig and all these kinds of things. It's just like, you just need something to get creative with. Would you say that?
Yeah, actually, one thing else I really like is I have this, which is a Launchpad X. It's really fun. Like if you're ever feeling stuck, you can set what key you want on it, and then all of the like little buttons just become notes in that key. Yeah. And you load up an instrument and you literally just bang it and record for like 5 minutes or whatever, and something generally comes out, I've found.
So the idea is you can approach if you're stuck on an idea, you can approach it in a different way and it can just unlock something.
Totally. Yeah, that's one thing I really love about electronic music and computer music is that there are all these tools that can kind of help you write. Mm-hmm. Like I have this one plugin called Pole Stretch, I think. And it can like slow a song down like 10 times or even
good
like 20
old Pole
times.
Stretch.
Yeah. You know it?
Yeah.
It's so good. So like sometimes if I'm writing some ambient music or anything and I'm feeling a bit stuck, like I'll like get a few chords on something, bounce that as audio, bring it into pole stretch, and then do all the pole stretchy stuff. And often something will come through that's like, okay, this is the next part of the song.
Yeah. So it can just also, it can be a matter of new perspectives or shifting your point of view to inspire something new. That's really great.
Totally. And my computer, it's amazing. It bails me out all the time. Just these kind of experimental ideas. There's I've got a checklist basically of stuff that if I'm stuck, they generally pull me through it. So it's good.
And I think what this also speaks to is the fact that in most music composing, and especially for video games, how you got there almost doesn't matter, because it's how you craft the experience for the listener and for the gamer.
100%. I feel like the same thing is in music as well. For example, I used to be very purist. When I started Willow Beats, I'd make every single synth patch that I used and, layered all my drums together. But now, I'll download some Serum patch banks and I'll download some Serum libraries, and often I will change them a little bit inside the synthesizer. But I'm fine of just being all right, people have created these thousands of amazing sounds. I'm fine with that. I think it doesn't matter as long as where you get is original and and works.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to ask you a couple of fun questions. If you had sort of a Tinder for composers or Tinder for musicians, not to speak to your relationship status, but some sort of you want to sell yourself as a musician, what is your very sharp bio say?
My music is flowy and watery, but juxtaposed by big bass and punchy drums.
Nice. So what's the profile picture that goes on that?
Oh God, I don't know. A picture of a river with some samples kind of across it.
I like it. What's the first game you remember playing?
I remember my brother and sister playing Alex Kidd. Which I think was on a Mega Drive. And I'm sure I had some goes, but I don't think I ever got past the first level. The first game that I remember really getting into was Link's Awakening on Game Boy.
Nice.
And I got that and Pokemon and a Game Boy Color, and that was my beginning of just love for video games.
What is your biggest musical influence, or one of your biggest musical influences?
Yeah, it's hard to say biggest, so I'll say one of. But the Donkey Kong Country soundtrack is huge for me. And I remember being at a friend's house. We were super young. We would have been like 6 or 7 or something. And his brother was playing Donkey Kong. And yeah, the music, I remember just thinking the music was really amazing even then. And I'd remembered one of the melodies and written some words to it. And I was I remember singing it to my mom, and they were trash, but pretty good decent for a 6-year-old.
If you remember them, that would be amazing.
I think so there was an area called Bangalore near my home.
Yeah.
And so the lyric was the song went where my voice is a bit scratchy, but it went went on the way, on the way, on the way, on the way, off to Bangalore, ooh. And that's one
Nice.
of the minecart songs, or the mine songs in Donkey Kong.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think that one's my favorite. It's the one that it just brings out it's just so emotional for me. It's so nostalgic and so beautiful. And the Donkey Kong Country 2 as well is really beautiful. Although I don't like that one. I didn't hear that as a kid. But still it has the same it feels the same as the first one.
Cool. So you're doing Riverboy, you're doing Cult of the Lamb. What else are you working on or looking forward to working on?
Yeah, so I'm working on this joint album with 2 Yidiki players, or didgeridoo, Brent and Kieran, which is really cool. They're both one of them is doing 20 minutes solo, and then the other one is doing 20 minutes solo, and then they're going to do 20 minutes both playing together.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
And they were both had previously worked with Dreaming Now, as have you.
Yeah. Dreaming Now, he's amazing. I feel very very lucky to have worked with him. Very cool.
Cool. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so if you just look up Riverboy on Spotify or Apple Music or Instagram, Twitter, yeah, just all your regular spots.
And where can people find out more about Cult of the Lamb?
So they can follow Massive Monster on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Or go to the website cultofthelamb.com.
Beautiful. And when can we expect to see the game?
You can expect to see it in 2022.
Amazing. Well, it's been a pleasure seeing and speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time, Narayan.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Hey.